Hey, what is up, everybody? Bob here, your virtual upline. And here we are, the moment that we've all been waiting for. This will be sad enough to say, our last official group activity that's going to be happening. But these are the live coaching sessions that I promised all of you. I posted in the group earlier in the week, kind of asking, hey, what's the biggest question or the biggest thing that you still want help with, leaving this challenge, this 5-day challenge experience. And I want to thank all of you that took the time to comment. We had quite a bit of you that left some questions, and I think there were a lot of really incredible things, but we did notice that there was kind of a common theme, that there were certain topics that came up more often than others. So we selected two people, somewhat randomly, but we really wanted to try to select two questions that were asked the most. And these two certainly were some of the most frequent ones. And the other reason for us doing this is I want to demonstrate to you what I believe, for those of you that might still be on the fence about joining the Legacy Leadership Academy, and not sure exactly what you get. We do a lot of this kind of stuff inside of the private Facebook group and for our members. We do a lot of what I call one-to-many coaching, where I do a lot of individual one-on-one coaching sessions, but we actually stream that live into the group for the benefit of the entire membership. And a lot of our members tell us that this is some of the most impactful stuff, because it's really inspiring and encouraging to hear that other people are dealing with the same stuff that you are. So we just wanted to give you a little sneak peek into something that we do. And, even if you're not considering joining, I still think if you watch this, you'll get a ton of value out of it. So I want to welcome Daphne and Cindy here today. And we're going to just kind of go in the order that I am looking at you now. And Daphne, we're going to have you go first. Or I'm sorry, Cindy, we're going to have you go first. So let me talk a little bit about, I want to just kind of summarize your question, and then we'll dig into it a little bit. So Cindy, having you go first, you had shared that the biggest problem on your team is duplication, which is a very common one. And your point was that your team has been trained and they know what to do, but they're still not doing it. Fear holds them back. You've tried to work with them on mindset and really start looking at what they're doing more from the perspective of, you're not bothering people, you're offering them a gift, but it just hasn't worked. And you've even been told that by others that you just don't have the right people. Maybe you're kind of refusing to just buy that at face value. And I think that that's a good quality as a leader, is to always be able to look at yourself and say, is there anything else that I could be doing, anything more? And I think that's a really good place to start as a leader, is always kind of saying, could I have done anything different or better? And I think that's a very important question to ask. So I applaud you from coming from that perspective, but let's talk a little bit more about that. So is there anything else you would want to add just to give us a better understanding of kind of what's happening and what's going on right now?
Well, I actually listened to your video from yesterday, and one of the things I think that I haven't done that maybe I could do better is to ask specific questions as to their fear, because they'll say, yeah, I have fear, or yes, I know I should do that, but then they don't. But I've never really said, what is it that you need to get over that? So that might be something that I think has been lacking in what I've done that may make a difference, or maybe they're just not ready.
Yeah. So give me a better understanding. What are we talking about team-wise? How many people do you have on your team?
So I have 16 directs and I have 40 total on my team.
Okay. And out of those 40, if you had to guess, how many of those are like actively at least engaged and involved in the business?
I would say 30 are actively engaged, but they're not really meeting their goals. And a lot of them are not duplicating. They want to, Their problem really is it's easy for them to talk about the product that we have,
Yep.
but about the business and sharing that has been difficult. They won't bring me calls so that I can do it. They're just
Yeah.
so to me, that means that maybe it's a belief system thing.
Yeah. So is it? Do you think so? Would you say that for the most part, they do an okay job getting customers, but they're just struggling building a team?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think it's possible? And I want to dig in a little bit because what I'm already kind of seeing here is I think there's probably a little bit of an issue with your system for prospecting. And we'll talk more about that. But do you think that there's a possibility that it's not so much that, you know, you said they won't bring you calls. You're referring to three-way calls.
Right.
Maybe it's more so that they're not able to. Is it for a lack of effort? Or is it that they're just not successful in getting people to that step?
They're not talking to people about the business opportunity.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. They say that they understand the value of it,
Mm-hmm.
but and that's why if they don't know how to do it, I've talked about coaching calls where we could do three-way coaching calls so they can hear me.
Yep.
They aren't even doing that, then that's when people tell me you just.
When you say a three-way coaching call, what are you? Give me a better understanding.
What I would say is, if you're uncomfortable talking about the business, get a friend, a family member, whatever, and we'll role play. Basically.
Yeah, got it. Okay, you understand? That's kind of a weird thing for people to do, right?
Well, I understand if it's if they have an ulterior motive, but if you're just asking, a friend or your family member to just help you, that's the goal of it.
Still a very uncomfortable thing for people to do.
Yes.
I think if anything, if you want to do that type of thing, you're better off just doing a one-on-one role play with someone. Instead of bringing a third party in that doesn't really have a vested interest in this process, just role play with them directly.
Yeah. Okay.
Just say, I'm your prospect. Talk to me. You'll be much more effective at that type of coaching. I think your strategy is good because the only way you can really help them is you've got to actually see what they're doing or saying. But I think you're better off doing that just a one-on-one type of a deal. Now, here's the thing, though. Your approach is right. Somebody comes to you and says they're struggling. You can't help them unless you have clarity on what's happening. So whether that's saying, hey, here's, let's do a role play where you can talk to me. But I bet their problem isn't so much what they're saying because they're probably not even getting to that point with most people. It's probably a lot of messaging that's kind of going awry from the very beginning. So in that case, what you would want to have them do is just send you screenshots of message threads that they've sent to prospects. See, the first thing that I used to do, somebody calls me up and complains, says, nothing's working. And I say, okay, all right. So here's what I know as a matter of fact. If you're teaching them the right system, it works if you work it the right way. Now, we're not sure yet about the right system part. We'll dig into that in a second for you. But since we're on this topic of coaching, the first thing I want to know before I even have another word with them is I say, okay, show me what you're doing. I want you to take screenshots right now of the last 3 to 4 conversations you've had on Facebook with prospects or text. Most of the time it's Facebook. Text them to me. I want to look at them and then I'll call you back. And I can guarantee you 9 out of 10 times it'll become very clear to you right away why they're not having success because they're doing things that are completely wrong. So the lesson here is when we're coaching people, they're not going to get that aha moment unless you use their own experience as the teaching tool. So if I just tell you, you can't do this, okay, I got it. But if I say, do you see that you did this? Here's what you should have done different. That's when the light bulbs go on. But so that's why role playing is so important because if they're talking through it and doing it, you can point out to them areas of improvement. But I think most of the time people's problems are not talking, it's messaging because it doesn't even get to that point, right? So I think that's really kind of how you want to handle that there. But I'd like to take a step back because I'd like to dig a little bit into this whole system thing, because I think that there might be something here, and I want to just get clear on that. Talk to me a little bit about the process that you teach people for sharing the business. What does that look like?
So I give them language for reaching out to people. And then we have third-party tools that I share with them. I usually, when they're first onboarding, I will work with them one-on-one with a particular person. So we send them a particular tool that might fit this person better. See if they look at the tool, follow up, and at that point, share some additional information, but then have them actually get on a call with me so that I can share my story and I can share more information and ask questions.
And that's after they've shared the tool with the prospect?
After they've shared the tool with the prospect.
Got it. Okay. You're just finding that do you think they're using the tools?
I don't think they're using the tools or even getting to that point. I don't think they're having the conversations where they're even getting to the point where anyone's interested in the business.
So it's breaking down in the reach out.
It's breaking down in
what is the language? Just give me a gist of the language that you teach them to use. Just
for like a reach out.
Uh-huh.
So if it's somebody that they haven't spoken to or doesn't know what they're doing, usually what I'll say is to reach out and say, I don't know if you've seen on Facebook, but I've started a brand new business. I'm so excited about this opportunity, and I'm really looking forward to what it's going to do for my life. These are new people. I wanted to reach out to you because there might be XYZ reasons. I thought you might have some interest, or you might know somebody who could be interested. Would you be open to having me send you something, or to get it hopping on the phone for a few minutes?
Got it. And do you think that they're using that language?
I don't know. I love your idea about the screenshots, because what I tell them and what they do.
Yeah.
You're right. I don't know that. That's a really good point.
Yeah. So the problem is you don't have the clarity for the coaching. You need clarity on what they're doing. But my initial gut reaction would be that I think that the initial language is a little bit cumbersome. So it's a bit much. Because here's what I'm envisioning. If you're, and I don't know, I know you're just kind of off the top of your head, but if you're sending out an initial message that I've got to scroll down in my message thread to read the whole thing, that's a no-no. You can't be giving, you have to really make it conversational. And what I mean by that is the first message, if I was reaching out to you and by the way, I know you just gave me an example, but you need to have them reach out to their closest people first, right? That's where they have the strongest trust. So they shouldn't have to go through all that kind of rigmarole. It should be able to be more direct. But if I was reaching out to you in that same scenario you just gave me, my first message to you would literally be nothing more than, hey, Cindy, it's been a long time. How have you been? And that's it. Nothing else. Because what I'll tell you is if you don't respond to that, you sure as heck ain't responding to some other long message. And I think what happens is when we're making the offer in that first, and what you're doing is a little better than, it's actually much better than what most people do. Most people immediately go for, hey, here's my link or something like that. You're not doing that. You're doing more of a transitional offer where you're just saying, hey, let's get on a call, or if I send you something, and that's way better, but that shouldn't be happening in the first message because it's inauthentic. Because you don't even know if it's the right time in my life or if I'm open. And that can't all happen in the course of just one message. It has to happen over the course of maybe 2, 3, 4 messages. And by just changing that, that small tweak will make a big difference, because probably what's happening is a lot of people are getting turned away on the first message and they're not even responding just because it's too much.
Okay.
So teaching them a sequence of shorter, succinct messages, breaking up what you have into a couple of different touch points, they'll have a lot more success with that.
Okay.
So that's a small change that'll make a big difference. But what you have to figure out is, are they even using it? Because my guess is they're not even, there's different points where this can break down. There's the initial message you send. If you're losing people there, they're never getting to watch the tool. Well, then you need to address that problem. If they're watching the tool consistently, but then you're losing them at the follow-up, that's the point you need to dig into. This is actually, we just did a masterclass on this very topic inside of the membership a couple of months ago. Each month we do like a big training, and I taught, it was called Mastering the Exposure Process, where we taught you as a leader how to look at a 10,000 foot level at your exposure process, and gave you some really critical plans of how to design a process that people can go through quickly and easily. But every step has to build upon the last one, right? So there is a science to how you do this. It sounds to me like you're on the right track with what you're doing. There just needs to be a little bit more training and clarity around those initial messages.
Okay.
And I bet you that if you started digging in a little deeper, you'll find that people are saying all kinds of nonsense in that first message, right? They're giving the name of the company, they're sending the link, they're doing, but here's the thing, let's just say that Daphne is that third party that I'm coaching, and she sends me some screenshots, and I say, okay, well, here's the reason why. And then now here's where this is where the skill set of leadership comes in. You have to learn how to be able to coach and mentor people in a way where you're not breaking them down, you're building them up. It is a skill to be able to give criticism and feedback in a way that, that builds people up and doesn't discourage them. So learning how to do that, this is a lot of the finesse of leadership, right? And, there's a whole, I've done a whole masterclass on that as well inside of the membership program. But I think that for you, Charity is asking a question, is that training available in the membership? Yes, it is, Charity. If you go into the mobile app and you click on the leadership and training section, it'll be under Mastering the Exposure Process. That's in there. There's every masterclass I do a training. We print up and we create an implementation guide that you can print up so you can implement what you learn. So it's in your membership area right now. But that would be, Cindy, that would be my piece of advice for you, is dig in a little bit more, because here's the reality. You don't know if you have the right people on your team yet, really. You're not 100% clear on what the issue is. But I'll tell you this, 40 people on your team is a great accomplishment, but that's not anywhere near where you want to go, right? You've got much bigger goals and dreams than that. And I'll tell you this with absolute certainty. The people that are on your team right now are not going to be the ones that get you from 40 to 400. Those people are not on your team yet.
And I feel like I was more in management mode and spending way too much time on my team last year, and I have made that adjustment. I'm now focusing way more on my own business. And and that's why I kind of really was excited about this program, because I want to do it right.
Yes. And you have the right attitude. You can't get caught in management mode where you're just trying to manage your team. You always have to be leading from the front, because I'll tell you what, there's something really powerful. You want to learn how to, like, if there's anybody that's watching this and they're like, yeah, this is like me. I've got a smaller size team. It's stagnant. There's not a lot happening. I feel like I'm trying to pull everybody across the finish line. Here's the best way to motivate that team. Go find new people. Because what happens is this. When a team is stagnant and it's dead and nothing's happening, it creates this like really kind of negative culture. When you bring some new people into that team that are excited and they start to see results, here's what it does to the entire rest of the team. It scares the heck out of them. It creates a fear of loss, because what happens is Cindy, who was always there available anytime they needed to complain or moan, and you know what I'm talking about, right? You're not there for the calls that much anymore. They don't hear from you. Like a week or two goes by and you're not reaching out to them because you're really busy working with new people. And then they say, well, is everything okay? You'll go, yeah, it's fine. I just recruited Daphne and she's doing amazing things and she's keeping me so busy. Hey, do you need anything? No, I'm just checking in. Okay, great to hear from you. Call me if you need something. And they get off that phone and it's a much different feeling than it used to be. Now the feeling is, oh my God, Cindy doesn't need me anymore. Like she's going to leave me behind. I don't like how this feels. The fear of loss is 10 times the motivator that just the potential for gain is. And you have the ability to control that at any time in your business. Tammy's asking, we need to do a masterclass on how to coach in a nice way. Tammy, that's actually one of the masterclasses that I'll be announcing soon, is I'm going to be teaching people how to coach, like practice the tough love kind of coaching, but do it in a structured way so that, to give you the confidence to go into those conversations. That'll be something we're going to teach for sure. But yeah, that would be my advice to you, Cindy. Focus on finding new life, right? Dig a little bit more into what they're doing. A really good way to do that, because when I'm thinking about coaching, I'm always thinking about, like, I don't want to lose like a one-on-one conversation. I don't want to lose that just on one person that might not do anything with it. So why not set up a Zoom just like this, where you could have 3 or 4 people that volunteer to have you critique their social media conversations. And you do it on screen share for the entire team to see. And that will be so much more effective than you just doing it one-on-one, because everybody's going to be able to benefit from that knowledge that you give them.
Great advice.
Is that helpful?
Very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Well, hey, listen, thank you for participating in the challenge. And it sounds like, have you signed up for the membership? It sounds like, or are you planning on it?
I am, yes.
Awesome. Well, congrats on becoming a legacy leader. And I look forward to working with you. Make sure you do me a favor and leave me a post in the group in the next couple of weeks and tag me and let me know how things are progressing with what we talked about today.
Okay, I will. Thank you so much.
You got it. Awesome. All right, Daphne, you're on the hot seat. How are you?
I'm great. Very excited to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. Okay, so let me summarize on, and by the way, if you're just joining late, as I know a lot of you have, I asked a question in the group. I said, hey, what are you struggling with before we kind of, archive or close this group down? This was just a pop-up group for the challenge. Before we go, I wanted to see if I could help a couple of you on the way out and, had you post your questions. But I also wanted to do this as a demonstration for something that we do a lot of inside of the Legacy Leadership Academy. We do a lot of this one-to-many kind of group, one-on-one, but group coaching sessions. And our members tell us that this is some of the stuff they really love the most. So I just wanted to demonstrate to you kind of something you get when you are a member. But Daphne, let's dig into your question. So you had another one that came up very commonly, and I'm just going to summarize here, and then you can add to it what you want. Basically, your issue is that you're feeling paralyzed with fear. You're overwhelmed. You are struggling finding the balance between business and the other parts of your life, which are a full-time job and your family. And you just feel stuck, right? You've got this desire, you really want it, but you're not sure what to do. Is that an accurate kind of description of where you are?
That is. And as I read through it, I was trying to just sort of hone it down into one thing. And I really think overwhelmed, because I see, I read a lot, I watch a lot of videos and things like that. And it's almost like, oh, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. I need to do that. I need to do that. And I'm really struggling as, okay, pick a direction and go. And I think I spend too much time deciding. I know in one of your trainings last week, you said, doesn't matter which thing you choose, just pick one.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I'm struggling a lot of times, is just deciding what direction do I need to go in and get there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a very common issue. We've heard that come up a lot. And so I want to touch on a couple of things that I think are important to understand. Number one, let me just talk quickly about kind of the logistical part of overwhelm. And I think you're hinting at a problem that a lot of people have, is when we look at the way that we spend our week, when we take an inventory of that week, when you first join the membership, we have a section in there. It's labeled Start Here. And what we've done is we've chosen some of our trainings that we think are most needed from our members. There's a social media kind of mini course in there for helping you get your social media up to speed. But we also have our time management course, little masterclass we did in there, because I know that that's going to be a big challenge for people. One of the things that we did this class in the membership, and it's available to you when you join, and people loved it. What I had them do, and what I would tell you to do, is over the course of a week, take an inventory of how you spend your time. And I can almost guarantee you that this is what, if you're struggling in your business, here's what you'll find. You're spending the vast majority of your time consuming instead of producing. Watching videos, listening to podcasts, watching training videos, all this stuff. Because this is, quite frankly, it is the path of least resistance, right? And it's easier to just, but what do? We trick ourselves into thinking like that's working the business, but we fall into this trap of always getting ready to get ready, but we do nothing. And a lot of times we don't even realize that we slip into this pattern. It's very easy to get trapped into that. The first step is becoming aware that you're doing it. And I would argue that if you were to track your time, you would be absolutely shocked at how little time you actually spend doing things that are working your business. Social media is not working your business. Posting, creating. Look, I'm the biggest fan of doing things like videos in the world. But doing a video is not working your business. Social media is not working your business. It's marketing. The only reason why you post on social media, the only reason why you do a video is to generate leads, so that allows you to work your business, reaching out, messaging, connecting, sharing your products, following up, training, presenting. There's only a handful of things that fall into that income producing category. But most people spend very little time doing that. And that's the reason why they stay stuck. So number one is you got to really take an inventory of how you spend your time. And you have to become more intentional about the way that you run your week. So you're somebody that has a lot of demands on your time, right? The reality is you don't have as much time as maybe someone else does because you've got a full-time job and a family. That means you need to be even more particular about the way you run your week. And the way that I teach it in the masterclass is you cannot crash land into Mondays. This is what most people do. They go into each week with absolutely no plan, they don't set business hours. There aren't blocks of time where they've scheduled activities and identified things that they're going to do. It's just all kind of reactive. You just go through the week, you crash land into every Monday. Before you know it, Wednesday, Thursday comes, you've done nothing, and you're back in that same pattern. You have to go into your week already knowing, having a plan in place for exactly when and how you're going to build your business. Now, that doesn't mean that plan is always going to go the way that you want it to. Matter of fact, it very rarely ever will go exactly the way you want. But what I can promise you is if you go into the week with a plan, you'll accomplish easily 2 to 3 times more than you would without one. And we actually walk you through this detailed process of creating what we call your ideal week inside of the program. And a lot of our members have said the same thing to us. The first week that they did that, they got more done in that 1 week than they had in the previous 2 to 3 months. Like insane amounts of increases in productivity just through focus and changing the way that they approach their week. Okay. So there's definitely a technical, like a logistic strategy side behind what you do. But I'll attack it from another angle as well, because I think that a big part of success is determined by the way that you manage your energy going into the tasks that you perform. And I think what happens sometimes is a lot of us, and I've fallen victim of this many times, still do. It's a constant battle we have to face. But our default setting, anytime we're faced with something that's like real work or stressful or fearful, we have this default setting of overwhelm. And it actually becomes part of our story and part of our identity. One of the stories is we're just so overwhelmed. We don't have enough time. And that becomes kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I can promise you this, the more that you focus on being overwhelmed and the more you talk about it, the more overwhelmed you're going to become. You're never going to not be overwhelmed. So we have to learn how to start becoming intentional about the energy that we bring into the tasks. And I think that you're getting a sense of that because you made mention of, the question you always have to ask yourself when you're feeling overwhelmed is, what is that next right action that I can take? It's understanding you can only ever do one next thing at a time. And what happens is when we go into this default setting of overwhelm, we lose that sense of clarity around the plan of what to do. Now, this is tied directly back to this idea of setting up an ideal week, going into each day saying, I'm going to work my business at an hour at lunch. And I know if I'm going to work my business for an hour at lunch, I need to have a list of to-do items, right? You're starting to run the business more like a business. And what happens is these small, little incremental steps in the right direction start building up momentum, and you start changing your energy in the way that you go through your day. And it makes a huge difference in terms of your mindset and your productivity. So you're always asking yourself, what is something that I can do right now that is action oriented that will lead me closer to my goal? And this is directly tied to a concept that we talk a lot about inside of the membership. It's called the speed of implementation. And the speed of implementation is going to ultimately dictate whether you succeed. And this is where, quite frankly, a lot of people that struggle with, that join our membership and they're like, I'm not seeing results. It's because they wait too long to take action on what they learn. We had people that went through this 5-day challenge that on day number 2 were already posting in the group that they got results. Like they already knew they found that third-party tool and they shared it with people before I even told them to, because they knew that's where this was going, but they implemented quickly, even before they felt ready, even before they were unsure. See, here's the secret. You're never going to feel ready. If you wait for things to be perfect and for you to feel ready, you're never going to do anything. If you can learn how to push past being unsure, the next time you feel doubt, implement faster. Because the only way you get clarity is through action. So you must learn how to start taking these things that you're learning, identifying what's most important to you right now, and putting that thing to work. And it's always just the next thing. If you don't, do you have a team now?
I have customers. I do not have an active team.
Okay. So your issue, did you go through all 5 days of the challenge?
I went through 3 and I'm still working on, I was trying to, and I am part of the Legacy Leader Academy now. So
okay,
I'm
awesome.
trying to finish all of that up.
So what was the first thing that you identified that was missing for you in that training? Did you learn anything day 1 when we talked about third-party tools? Are you using third-party tools?
I talk too much. That was the biggest thing. And so immediately I've changed that.
Okay.
And I've looked back, like you were saying to Cindy a minute ago, scroll back through some old messages and like, oh my word, no wonder.
Yeah.
They're not answering and such. So yes.
Okay. So let me help you with this. And I want everybody to notice I want you to pay attention to the way that this plays out here. I'm not sure how it's going to play out, but I just want to help you with this. So are you using third-party tools?
I am.
Okay. And what type of a third-party tool are you using? Is it a video? Is it a call? Is it a sample? What do you use?
Most of them lately have been videos. Our company just made some new videos. They're like 3 minutes. So I've been sharing those.
So you've got some tools that you can use.
Yes.
So based off of what you've done in the past and what you now know, so what you know that you did wrong was what? You were giving too much. You were making yourself the expert?
Too much, too fast. The expert. I think that's one reason I don't have an active team is because, I want to learn. I want to know. I'm a teacher by trade.
Yep.
So I give, and I've backed that way up. And I thought that's why, because they think they don't have time to do it or whatever. So I'm really cut back on my messaging, shorter messages, waiting for responses. third-party tools, that kind of thing.
Yep. So what is the first thing that you need to do next? What's the most important thing right now based off of what you just told me you were doing wrong?
I need to make sure that I have my third parties ready, as well as making sure that I am sharing with my customers how they can easily share. I feel like that's sort of the direction, or that is the direction I want to go in. I feel like in a way I'm starting over. When I started about 2 years ago, I started really fast, built a team pretty fast and all of that. And then for whatever reason, mindset, something, it just kind of, the wheels fell off. And so I feel like in a lot of ways I'm starting over.
Yeah. Well, and that's a common kind of thought that people have. I would challenge you to look at it differently. Okay. How long have you been in your business?
Almost 2 years.
Okay. Is it safe to say that the person you are today is a little different than you were 2 years ago?
Much different.
Okay. So you're not starting over.
Oh, good point. Right.
Because you're starting from an entirely different level, a different plateau of your life, right? You're in, and I think, but this all comes from the fact that what do as humans? We focus on the wrong things. We focus on what we don't have. You've been given this amazing gift of your own personal growth. Mm-hmm. Be grateful for that. Be appreciative of that, right? Because when we start shifting our focus, we bring more of what we want into our life. Mm-hmm. But here's what I would really tell you. What's happening here right now, and I kind of, I wasn't sure, but almost every time I do this, this is exactly what happens. You're not clear yet on what the next step is.
No, I'm not.
So let's go back, and I want to help you with this because this will be a valuable exercise for everybody. You've already told me that you have third-party tools, so that you've got that. You've told me that in the past, you've been talking too much. So essentially, you've been using the wrong approach, right?
Right.
So what would be the first thing you would need to do is to find a different what?
Approach.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
So you need to get clear on exactly what you need to say and do in your reaching out. So it's kind of the same thing that Cindy and I were talking about. You need to get clear on the reach out language. And I got a secret for you. There's no one right reach out. I could literally send 20 different series of messages to different people and all have them be effective. But the principles are still the same, that I'm not making myself the expert. Mm-hmm. I'm not giving them the information up front. I'm trying to make it conversational. Did you have a chance to see the social media script guide that I shared in the group?
Yes. And I have been using that this week.
Okay. So go through that guide. Find some sort of combination of language that you feel comfortable with. Maybe there's 2 different approaches, and I want you to have that in front of you at all times. And I want that to become your North Star, so that when you're I'm talking about literally to the point, Daphne, when you're sitting in front of the computer messaging people, it's right in front of you. Keep forcing you to stay on track. And it's not always going to go perfectly, but you've got to constantly be reinforcing what the plan is. And I'm telling you, if you do this enough, it's going to start to become habitual for you. Mm-hmm. And that's the only thing. You've just developed a bad habit. You have to be patient with yourself and do it enough to develop the good habit. And there is nothing else, literally nothing else that you can do right now that will be more important to your business than getting the language straight and beginning to put that into practice.
That makes complete sense.
Yeah. But do you see what was going on here is I've done this same exercise. I'll do training events, and at the end of the training, I'll ask a half dozen people to tell me what they're going to do next. And they can't even do that because it's just the way our brain, sometimes we're not conditioned to thinking that way. So this is what I'm talking about, is you need to really start being able to manage your energy going into tasks. You need to really be able to not have your default setting be overwhelm. And you need to always be asking yourself, what is the next thing I can do based off of where I'm at that's going to help me get to where I want to go? And I promise you, if you can take that, the speed of implementation, you take that next step, the step after that will become clearer. But what most people do is they want to see the top of the staircase. They want to know the whole staircase before, it doesn't matter what's at the top of the staircase. You got to take the first step, and that's where you're at right now. So that's what your focus needs to be.
Perfect sense. Yes. And I love the, talking about the North Star. I think I just needed to identify sort of that North Star and move in that direction.
Yep.
For sure.
So I promise you, if you make your, we're going to be, as a new member, I'm going to be taking you and Cindy through this leadership accelerator process that starts next week. The very first thing we're going to have you do is going to be to really dig into this idea of your internal identity. And you're going to find this is going to be some of the most powerful stuff you've ever gone through. I mean, it's going to, if you do the work, it will shift you at a fundamental level. And a lot of this kind of struggle you have with mindset, you're going to have a major breakthrough. So I'll be excited to you'll have to let me know how that goes for you. Make sure you post in the group and tag me and stuff.
I will, for sure. And I'm very looking forward to it. I just feel like I had a friend recommend your challenge group last week, and I'm just so thankful and just feel like this has been such a blessing, and the community has been incredible.
Yeah.
Just something I posted the other day in the outpouring and private messages has been unbelievable.
Yeah, it's awesome. I agree. I mean, this group has been phenomenal. I think you'll find that same experience, if not more, you'll get inside of the legacy group. And I definitely be excited to see what happens for you. So was that helpful?
Oh, very. Yes. I took notes, and I'll go back and watch and take more.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Well, listen, I want to thank Cindy and Daphne for joining us today. And I'll just give you one final kind of call to action here. This is an example of something that we do very often inside of the Legacy Leadership Academy. We do these kind of coaching, and there's lots of opportunities for this to happen. So if you've gotten value out of today, if you've gotten value out of this challenge group, go check out legacyleadershipacademy.com. Today is the last day to register. Just so you know, tomorrow I will be archiving this group. So what that means is you'll still have access to what's in here. You can see the post, but you will not be able to post any longer. I will not be in this group anymore. I will be spending the majority of my time inside of the legacy group. So I do hope to see a lot of you there. But thank you to all of you that participated in the challenge and made this group such an amazing community. And one final thanks to Cindy and Daphne for joining us today. Thanks for both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Have a great day, everybody. Take care.
Bye-bye.